Hello and welcome. This is my new $98 Kent Ridgeland single-speed bike from Walmart. Before we do anything else, let's address the pachyderm in the parlor. The first thing that you notice about this bike is the outrageously bright color set. I mean, even the tires are neon. This was what caught my eye on the display floor, and candidly, that is why I bought the bike. With that out of the way, let's take a closer look at the bike. The steel frame features classic road bike geometry, the double diamond, and is painted sky blue. I found all the welds to be good with no obvious flaws. Up front, the Ridgeland's cockpit is equipped with a 615mm wide, 25.4mm diameter steel handlebar. The handlebar has a slight rise and is itself equipped with bright yellow slip-on textured grips. The handlebar is connected to a 2-bolt steel quill stem. The brake levers have plastic bodies and alloy lever arms, which are painted lime green. On the head tube is an embossed badge celebrating 100 years of cycling. I will bet you that there were no bikes this brightly colored in 1920. The front wheel is a bright yellow 700C by 38mm with an all-purpose road tread, mounted on an aluminum single-wall wheel, and it's a bolt-on wheel, which you kind of expect at this price point. I did not find any branding on the tire, but the tread looks like the one on the black Chow Yang tires on my Hyper Urban. On the inside of the fork are decals with a green to yellow fade. Brakes, front and rear, are unbranded stamped steel linear pull brakes. The saddle is unbranded, and from the side its profile kind of reminds me of the stock saddles on my 1980s Schwinn bikes. The Ridgeland graphic on the down tube is a decal, as is the road-tested geometry one on the seat tube. Whatever road-tested geometry is. The rear tire is also 700C by 38mm, but obviously it's lime green. It is unbranded like the front tire, and it has the same all-purpose tread pattern as the front one. The wheel is a single-wall aluminum unit with an 18-tooth freewheel single gear, and it is bolt-on. The crankset consists of plastic-coated 170mm long crank arms and a 40-tooth chainring. The bottom bracket contains tried-and-true cup and cone bearings with a square taper axle. Not fancy, but entirely serviceable. There are 2 chain guards, a circular one on the chainring, and a somewhat curious clear horizontal one, which together remind me of the one-piece chain guard that you find on cruiser bikes. And finally, the pedals are basic, cheap plastic units. Well, all right, let's take this puppy for a spin. The first thing I notice is that it takes a little bit of effort to get rolling, but once you do, it's not bad at all. Here's my first surprise. Painted rims with rim brakes and no squealing. Typically in that kind of a situation, these things would howl like banshees. And we're off. Like I said, it takes just a wee bit of effort to get going in the first place. Once you're up to speed, it's easy to maintain that speed on levels. And I found throughout the course of the ride that the pedaling is quite smooth. Usually on an inexpensive bike, you would expect to have kind of a rough, if you will, bottom bracket. But this one is nice and quiet. I don't feel any grinding, so I am cautiously optimistic that there's actually some grease in this bottom bracket. The bike also coasts really well, and on these small inclines, pedaling is no problem. And again, absolutely quiet braking. I am surprised that that's the case with these painted rims. So, as I was saying, easy pedaling. This bike is well suited to tooling around town. On the flats, it's perfect. It's easy to maintain speed. It's actually kind of fun. And it's also fairly capable on small inclines. I would say maybe 5 or 6% grades. Speaking of which, here comes one right now on the right. When I was riding up this little, I guess it's a connector to an athletic field, I didn't have to stand on the pedals, which is kind of what I was anticipating having to do. This is the first real slope, although it doesn't look it on video because, video flattens out grades. Too bad it doesn't do that in real life. Anyway, I was seated on the entire ride up this little stretch, which was mildly surprising. As I say, with the 40 to 18 tooth gearing, I anticipated it would be a lot like my cruiser bike, which is not a lot of fun on hills. Now we're going to head back down to the park. And it's kind of funny. Obviously, this bike is eye-catching. There's no two ways about that. A couple of my female friends like those multicolored tires and think I should keep them. I was kind of leaning towards replacing them with some black tires. I imagine some of my guy friends, when they see this, there's going to be a lot of eye rolling involved, but I don't care. For $100, this is really a fun little bike, and you gotta love the simplicity of a single speed. There's nothing to deal with except the pedals and the road, and gosh, that's a nice change of pace sometimes. Just get out and ride because it's fun, not because it's a challenge. I mean, I like a challenge once in a while, sure, but this is really pretty cool. And if I'm being completely honest, I like the colors. I mean, it's so god-awful bright, I can't help it. Now, there are a couple of things I can change and one thing I would like to change. The saddle is pretty stiff and uncomfortable, as are the grips. But those are both fairly inexpensive and easy to swap, so that's going to happen sooner rather than later. One thing that I would like to change but can't is the frame size. I have a 32-inch inseam, and when I step off this bike, let's just say that there's darn little clearance, if you catch my drift. So if I had to get off this thing in a hurry, that could be cause for singing soprano. So if the bike came in sizes rather than just one size fits all, that would be great. If you're listening, Kent. So who is this bike for? Well, I would say this is a great bike for somebody to use to get around town, have a little bit of fun. This is not a bike, I think, for long trips up steep hills like where I live. So that's why I filmed this in town. If you enjoyed this, I have a link to a couple of other videos that I think you'll enjoy. And as always, thanks for watching. I really do appreciate that when you do. Goodbye.